For me, politics is personal because in my lifetime, the defining moments in our country's history have been decided by elections. I have always seen free and fair elections as the cornerstone of a functioning society. There is no question I am partisan when it comes to politics because my experience as a boy growing up in the slums of Yorkshire taught me that if power is held by the few, the many will suffer a lifetime of misery. But my belief in democracy is so strong that I am able to respect all those who make the effort to have their voice and their convictions count, regardless of their political stripes. Also, you may think that even though you were promised free beer, you are going to pay for it because you have to listen to an old codger. But you won't, because I am not going to lecture you and hector you about the war dead from my generation who sacrificed their lives for democracy and freedom. I know every generation has a responsibility to their ancestors, to their contemporaries, and their descendants. Moreover, I didn't come here to tell you that your generation doesn't have the same gumption as mine, because that would be a lie. I know you have that same gumption and that same thirst for social justice as my generation, because I see samples of it every day when I watch you go to work or listen to your struggles to get a higher education or get by in this hard scrabble century, 21st century. I only came here to tell you a simple truth. If you don't register to vote, your society will die along with your hopes and dreams for a decent life for yourself and your offspring. I am here to tell you that you won't have more than a bread and drippings life if you don't register to vote. I know this because I am not an historian, but I am an eyewitness to history. As I turned 92 last month, yes, I may be very old, but I can still remember what it was like to be young and live through austere times. In fact, I was around your age in the winter of 1945, as I was 22 then. World War II was in the fag end of its days, but there was still time for that conflagration to kill me or my friends before it was extinguished in May. I had been a member of the RAF since 1941, and aside from the Blitz V1 and V2 attacks, my war had been relatively good. However, my luck was about to change as my unit was ordered to cross the Channel and deploy to newly liberated Belgium, where we were to commandeer former Luftwaffe airfields and act as an air traffic control battalion just to the rear of combat. My unit and I landed in Ostend in late February, and by May we had travelled through devastated Belgium to emaciated Holland and into defeated and grim Germany, where the dead seemed to outnumber the living. During those months, when the armies of the world clashed on the land, the sea, and the air by day and night, I observed an endless torrent of displaced persons, concentration camp in victims, and homeless civilians struggle to survive on fresh-turned battlegrounds. 1945 was truly a remarkable, frightening, and glorious moment to be alive, young and on the winning side of history. I have never forgotten the devastation, the hunger, the misery that I witnessed while my RAF unit barreled through Europe as the struggle began between light and darkness reached its bloody end. However, despite the sadness that blossomed all around me, hope for a better tomorrow also germinated on those killing fields. You see, May 1945, the Second World War ended and a general election was called. At that time, I was both callow and cynical because I had been raised in the rough and ready streets of Barnsley, Bradford and Halifax, and had seen the cruelty of war. My generation was much like yours today because we were cynical about politicians and distrusted elections, as they only seemed to maintain our misery and ensured that we were denied health care, affordable housing, a proper education, and a chance to make decent lives for ourselves. As for me, I was jaded by my society because I had suffered horribly during the Great Depression. My elder sister died of TB in a workhouse, and my childhood was encompassed by the trinity of poverty, hunger, homelessness, and despair. My family lived for 10 years on the doorstep of starvation. As a boy, I foraged through rubbish bins to see if there was anything there for my tea, like an animal. I was forced, like millions of other bairns, to become a child labourer at the age of 7. While children of the well-to-do played games, I worked a beer barrel and delivered ale down despair-filled streets. To austerity-ravaged adults who longed for a short respite from their diminished lives, which were being suffocated by the Great Depression. So at war's end, I was not going to be swayed by the words of politicians, because my mates would say, they all talk a load of bollocks. But my generation did realize a simple fact of life, that if you sit on the sidelines of your life, others will decide for you whether you win or lose. So many from my generation resolved to vote in that 1945 general election because we wanted to create a more equal Britain, a more liberal world and a decent future for our children, where merit mattered and the class system was history. So when I voted for the first time, I, Like most everyone else of my generation, I voted for the future. I voted for justice. I voted for democracy. I voted for the right of everyone to a decent standard of living and the creation of the NHS. I am telling you, it is the first step in creating a better world for yourself and your children. In fact, this election may go down as the most important election of your generation, like 1945 was for mine. So it would be a great misfortune for your future and Britain's future to not participate in something that will make a difference for good or evil to your lives, regardless of your political beliefs, your personal beliefs or convictions. You must register to vote. Then you must go on election day and vote with your head, your heart, for a new tomorrow. Some have called my generation the greatest, but I think your generation will be the greatest because you will finish the job my generation started. I wish all of you a long and happy life. Seize your destiny by voting and being engaged with your society. Please remember, for everyone's sake, no vote, no voice. This is the most important election since 1945. If you don't vote, your future will be handed to the 1% who do with as they like. And remember, austerity is not just about fixing the country's finances. It is about turning us into a Downton Abbey where the 99% serve the elite like a digit servant.